Q has never known what it's like to live as a person of color in the United States of America. She's never known what it's like to be looked at because she was speaking a foreign language. Like, no, like, I'm not gonna do all that because, number one, I don't know your story. All I know is the color of your skin by looking at you. And I think that when we start dismissing people of any race, saying, you don't go through this, you don't go through that, I don't care about what you say, I think it's a huge problem. Because that's something that I will say I've vehemently disagreed with, because for me it was like this platform that was very educational and like full of, education and love, immediately turned like, hey, if you're white, I don't want to hear what you have to say. So what compelled you to say that? I guess this whole thing speaks to me, right? Because again, I'm around colored people all the time, and it becomes this thing about permission. And I've joined. So I recently did this. I undertook this project where I joined these like people of color only Facebook groups, which I think is textbook segregation. And so I joined these groups and I started sharing some ideas, very controversial ones. And I mean, they were clearly controversial because I know where most people in the theater lean, right? So I mean, I wasn't going into it blind. And I mean, they were furious, and it became, and I was one of them, right? I speak Spanish. I'm a Hispanic person. I was one of them. And one of them I got kicked out, and then the other one I'm like 100% censored. Like whenever I want to post, the moderators don't let me. And that's cool, whatever. That's their right. And I think that's a problem because, and again, you live in a state where it's predominantly white. I mean, most states are predominantly white because there's still more white people than everything else. But you live in a state where there's very little diversity, and I think a lot of folks coming from where you're at aren't seeing that as much. And I think like this well-meaning TikTok about laying down baby hairs probably pissed off a lot of white people because a lot of them are maybe in places where maybe there is diversity and they see that everyone is just doing what they want, so they get mad or they feel. Or I've got a buddy who went to New York, right? And he told me, he said, Carlos, I felt like it was a crime to just be white, right? Because in the theater world, I feel so bad for any handsome white guy straight actor right now. I do, because there's no handsome white guy straight actor out there that has legally owned a slave, that has, you know what I'm saying? Like any of that. And like a lot of them are getting a lot of hate. And I think that that's textbook wrong. Look, I'm not saying let's not flinch if white people are being racist. That's not what I'm saying. If a white person puts on stragglies right here and they're like, hey, look, I look like a black woman monkey. That's not f***ing cool. That's f***ing racist as f***. Everyone's going to know it's racist as f***. And culture is going to take care of that. Culture is going to be like, yeah, that is racist. Yeah, we should probably not f*** around with her.
Language.
Thank you for looking out, but it is what it is. And I think that's why, and actually, so that I saw a lot of your TikToks, and a lot of them I was like, dang, I think she's missing a point here, because you kept addressing the Karens. You addressed the Karens quite a lot, and I get it. Number one, you need content. Number two, it's how you felt, so you spoke it. But I think that a lot of white people are getting silenced right now, Q, and I think that we need to be really, really careful about adding to that, like, I don't care what white people have to say about this. Because, yeah, white people may be white, but white people are also people. And the same way that I sat down with Ashley and she's black and we talked about them, I'm not gonna dismiss Q because she's white. I'm not gonna say, you know what, Michael? Q has never known what it's like to live as a person of color in the United States of America. She's never known what it's like to be looked at because she was speaking a foreign language. Like, no, like, I'm not going to do all that because, number one, I don't know your story. All I know is the color of your skin by looking at you. I don't know where you come from. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know any of that. And I think that when we start dismissing people of any race, saying, you don't go through this, you don't go through that, I don't care about what you say, I think it's a huge problem. Because number one, we don't know if that's the case. And two, even if it is, they're still a person. And I'm really scared that we're encroaching on race wars when we start saying things like, if you're a Karen, I don't want to hear what you have to say. So what do you think about that? Because that's something that I will say I vehemently disagreed with, because for me it was like this platform that was very educational and like for the most part just full of education and love, immediately turned like, it was like, hey, if you're white, I don't want to hear what you have to say. So what compelled you to say that?
Because I was specifically addressing individuals different than myself. So I also have content coming up that is specifically directed at the LGBTQ plus community. And I don't need straight people coming on and talking about how they navigated life as a straight person. You know, like, obviously, like, sure, let's have that conversation a different time. But right now, I'm trying to hear the voices of people who have personally experienced this specific thing. As a straight person, like, we don't have to come out, right? As somebody who's LGBTQ plus, we have to come out. That's an extra step that they have to take. I'm curious about that step. I'm curious about what that felt like for them. So when I'm asking a question specifically to a demographic and they're being open and honest and their voices are being empowered and heard, we need to give them time to speak. We need to stop sticking our noses into everything that we're not involved in. It's okay to give other people the opportunity to talk and share their experiences. So I think, like, I have no problem addressing the Karens. I will do it until the day that I die because I think it's important, because we need to stop sticking our noses where we don't belong. If somebody else is trying to hear from somebody else and is being genuinely curious, it's okay for us to take a step back and say, all right, let's let them have this one.
Fair play. That logic is sound. I think I agree with that. If you're addressing someone, like if I'm taking a survey, what I'm getting from that is if I'm putting out a survey on like what it's like to eat lollipops in the summertime, I don't want to hear from like anyone in Alaska who doesn't get summer, right? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Kind of.
Okay.
Or it's like talking to somebody and saying, hey, I noticed that you have depression. How do you navigate life with depression? How do you take care of yourself? And somebody being like, so I don't have depression, but I'd love to give insight on this. Like, baby, you don't know. That's okay. Let somebody else talk.
Okay, fair play. I think, yeah, no, okay, I get it. But I mean, I think if that's the case, then, I mean, why even address the Karens? And I'm not suggesting you shouldn't. You do whatever you want, right? It's working out for your girlfriend, shit. But I just think, I mean, Joe Rogan says it best. He says, don't read the comments. So,
yes, and I've got to that point. I down 3 days ago, never again.
So it's like, honestly, I think if that's what your platform is for, and you're just trying to give a voice to the disenfranchised, look, I don't see anything wrong with that, or who you perceive as the disenfranchised. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think, but I will say, I mean, why address the Karens, you know? And you know what? I'll call myself too, because I made a video like responding to a lot of the hate that I got on like the Theater Folks of Color page. And so, I mean, I get it. You know, number one, it gives you content to make. Number two, you get to have I think a lot of the times it's an emotional response. But also, I think a lot of the time it confuses people. So, like, because when I saw that, I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, she's doing super cool stuff. But, like, now she's, like, she's against all the whites now, it sounds like. But no, now that you're articulating yourself in more long form, like, that's not what you're doing. And I just think I think it's really important to distinguish that difference because I think a lot of white people right now feel that way. They feel like they're being sold out. They feel like they're being sold out by their own people and by everyone else. I mean, do you see any of that in Utah or no?
Yeah, I do a little bit. And I will say, just to clarify, with the like Karen videos that I've posted, I posted those because like before I was going through all of my comments and deleting all of those nasty comments. And they weren't just like comments of people disagreeing with me. They were people using like racial slurs, attacking me and who I am as an individual. So I was deleting that. And so I was trying to like clap back and say like, oh, you thought you were so cool, trying to get like attention on my page, try again, Miss Thing. And then like that led to a mental breakdown because while other people weren't seeing that hate, I was. I saw every comment that I deleted. So I probably won't be making many Karen videos in the future because I'm done giving them attention.
Yeah, or if you're going to make them just, I mean, I would say, if I may, of course, like, again, your content is yours, but I mean, maybe just being just a tiny bit more nuanced, right? Because I think a lot of white people right now feel like it's just like whites. And I think we need to be careful about that because, look, again, yeah, maybe white people have never had a Jim Crow law instantiated against them, But that doesn't mean that, one, it can't happen, and I think it low-key is happening right now. And two, it doesn't mean that things can't get really, really ugly really, really fast. Because, I mean, everyone can be racist. I grew up in a household where rock and roll was considered white people music. My dad always called it, well, I also grew up in a religious household, so it was the devil's music and it was white people's music. And my whole life, I didn't listen to rock and roll because my dad was saying racist shit, right? And he's not a racist by any means, right? But he was saying like stupid prejudice shit. And I think we need to be careful about that because then people start missing out on things. People start feeling like they're not heard. People start getting really upset. And I think something that's become really evident, at least to me, is the parts of the country. There are a lot of different parts to the country, and no one really addresses this, but like you live in a part of the country that it sounds like it's totally different from the part of the country that I'm in. But when I went on your TikTok and I saw it, I was like, this girl probably studies theater in the city that that I live in, you know? And it wasn't that specific, but what I was getting at is you're probably like, we're around the same things. That's what I'm assuming. I think that's what most people assume when they open up their phones. And I think that might be important to take into consideration too, is that the internet makes things look a lot worse than they are. And so you might get a girl from Utah making a TikTok, and then you get a girl in New York responding to it, and then you get another girl in Maine responding to it, and then you get another girl from here responding to it, and everyone is talking about one thing, bringing completely different experiences to it. And again, like that's just, you know, whatever, you have that dialogue and you reach whatever conclusion you can come to if you're those individuals. But I think that's an important piece too, because I think we forget a lot. The world is a lot bigger than the internet makes it seem.
Definitely.